All right, so we're back, and today we're going to be talking about, as you can tell by the title, Auston Matthews, because I need money. Just kidding, can't make money yet on these videos, hopefully at some point. But we're going to talk about Auston Matthews not because the Leafs are the center of the hockey universe and everyone needs to talk about the Leafs if you want to get exposure, but rather there's actually something interesting that I want to talk about regarding Auston Matthews and his upcoming contract, because as of a week ago, the day that I'm recording this video, Nathan MacKinnon signed an 8-year extension with the Colorado Avalanche, making him the highest paid player in the NHL, in NHL history rather, a contract that'll pay him $12.6 million against the cap every single season. That begins in 2023-2024. And it's big news because finally someone has taken the highest paid player kind of label from Connor McDavid by literally $100,000, but it doesn't matter. Someone else is now the highest paid player, and it's a good sign for the rest of the league in terms of its financial health, because then that means more players will be getting paid more money. And there were some people out there, because again, Leafs are the center of the hockey universe, that immediately took the Nathan MacKinnon contract and applied it to Auston Matthews and what will he get with his next contract. So with that, that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to look at Nathan MacKinnon's contract and then look at Auston Matthews in his current situation, as well as the current situation with the Leafs financially, and look at what could his next contract look like in terms of term, in terms of money, and in terms of who will he sign it with. So we'll talk about that and a little bit more in this video. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I think all that lethal weapon horse shit is just an excuse so you dancers never have to get in a real.
Before we get started with the rest of the video, however, I'd just like to remind you guys to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you're new around here. Leaving likes on these videos really helps them perform better in the YouTube algorithm, helps this channel grow. So if you want to see this channel grow, again, make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you do not miss another video. So let's start by talking about Auston Matthews' current contract status with the Toronto Maple Leafs. As of right now, heading into the 2022-2023 NHL season, he has 2 years left on his current deal at $11.634 million per season. As of right now, that puts Auston Matthews as the third highest paid player in the NHL. It will be the fourth once MacKinnon's contract extension kicks in. And most notably, he will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this deal. No more restricted free agency for Matthews once this contract is up. So taking a look at Toronto's current contract situation heading into this upcoming season, their expiring contracts this season are Alexander Kerfoot, Pierre Engvall, David Kampf, Nick Aube-Kubel, Michael Bunting, Wayne Simmons, Joey Anderson, Adam Gaudette, Justin Hall, and Ilya Samsonov. There are names in there that are going to be RFAs. There will be some guys that are UFAs. Most notably for UFAs, it's Alexander Kerfoot being the main one. Michael Bunting as well will command a hefty raise on top of his, I believe it's 900 grand that he's making. He'll make way more than 900 grand on his next deal, so that will be a big problem. Plus, if Ilya Samsonov does prove himself to be a very solid goaltender for the Leafs and possibly their starter as of next season, that may be a guy that could command a decent amount of money on his next deal because he will be an RFA. So those are all the expiring contracts in 2023. In 2024, their current expiring contracts are Auston Matthews, William Nylander, Kyle Clifford, Jake Muzzin, TJ Brodie, Timothy Liljegren, Mark Giordano, and Matt Murray. You have two of your top four guys on expiring deals that season. You also have Jake Muzzin, who's been a big part of that blue line for years at this point, plus TJ Brodie. And then in 2025, so far, it's just John Tavares and Mitch Marner. So the other half of the big four players for the Leafs. And just to note, the only contracts signed past 2025 for the Maple Leafs are Morgan Rielly and Calle Jarnkrok, which I think is pretty interesting. Now, just quickly looking at that, you may say this is all speculation. Let me put it out that players will be re-signed, contract situations will be different even by the trade deadline. But just looking at the expiring contracts, the amount of money that will be coming off the books, it's easy to say that if Toronto wants to re-sign Auston Matthews, and as of right now, that should be a priority heading into the next 2 seasons. Getting him signed to a contract extension as soon as they possibly can, which would be July 1st, 2023, is essential for the Leafs. That is kind of the doomsday clock is what I would say, because if you don't sign him to an extension as soon as you can, then you're risking the possibility of going into an upcoming season with Matthews on his expiring deal. And we saw that with John Tavares with the New York Islanders, how crazy that was. Imagine what it would be like for Auston Matthews to play out the final year of his contract. So we've looked at the expiring contracts and looked at the possible major restructuring of the Leafs financially. We now have to ask the question, because now it's been revealed from the opening season press conferences for guys like Kyle Dubis and the rest of the Leafs roster, about who will be signing this deal if Toronto does sign him to an extension. Will it be Kyle Dubis, or will it not be? Because it was revealed that Kyle Dubis is going to be a quote-unquote lame duck GM this upcoming season. He does not have a contract extension as general manager of the Maple Leafs. And that's big news, because Kyle Dubis has stuck with his guys this entire time and has really doubled down on this current core and the current structuring of the cap for the Maple Leafs. He has said time and time again, they will make it work. This roster is good enough to win a Stanley Cup. And over time, it started to feel like false promises from the general manager, because at this point, no matter whether or not they've been close or not, they haven't made it out of the first round yet, and they're talking about themselves being Stanley Cup contenders. So then that begs the question, if Kyle Dubis is out, a new guy's in, we don't know who that guy may be, will they look at restructuring the Leafs salary cap, and will that have an effect on how much guys will be paid going forward? So the possibility of a new GM being in place for the Maple Leafs heading into the 2023-2024 season, lots of possibility for change with regards to how much money is being handed out to certain players. It makes for an interesting situation in terms of how much money can Matthews get, how much will he want, and how much term will he want. So if I'm putting myself in Auston Matthews' shoes and I'm looking at the situation I'm in, I'm a back-to-back Rocket Richard winner, a favorite to win the Rocket Richard again this season. You're a top 5 player in the NHL, one of, I would say, top 2 centers in the NHL currently, just behind McDavid. You're possibly one of the best goal scorers in the NHL since Ovechkin first entered the league, and you're essential to the Toronto Maple Leafs' success as a whole. So that kind of puts Matthews in the driver's seat in terms of how much money and how much term will he want. I don't think it's going to be a Nathan MacKinnon situation where he just makes $100,000 more than Nathan MacKinnon. I think Auston Matthews will ask for north of $13 million at the very least, because you also have to take into consideration that the salary cap is expected to go up significantly over the next 2 to 3 seasons. And by significantly, I mean by about $5 to $10 million over the next 3 seasons. So if the salary cap hits $90 million, you have a ton more money to play around with, especially if you're signing a guy like Auston Matthews. So I think I have the amount of money that he wants. Let's look at how much he wants in terms of term. When Auston Matthews first signed his current contract with the Maple Leafs, it was looked at as the expectation for the next wave of NHL players, young NHL players signing their extensions. It was talked about that young players would want to sign contracts that walk them right to unrestricted free agency, not sign max term deals with their current clubs. And so far, at least more recently, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like the young, up-and-coming NHL players currently are willing to take those max deals for the team to have control over them for 8 years. But they're willing to do that because then that means they get paid way more now than they probably should be getting paid. Look at, I would say, Jack Hughes when he signed his extension. At least at the time, no one thought he was worth $8 million a season for 8 years. I know I definitely looked at it saying, that's a hefty price. He better be worth it. And going into this season, in the first year of that 8-year deal, he looks like he's worth the money. He was over a point per game last season. If he can stay healthy, he should be a 90-95 point player every single season. He's going to be a big part of that New Jersey Devils franchise for the next 8 years. So because of that, Matthews has sort of gone against the grain more recently in terms of what his contract structuring is like. So should we expect him to do the same thing? And I would say, because he's probably the most recognizable player currently in terms of pop culture, and he takes a lot of influence from top paid athletes in other sports, I would say he's probably going to go against the grain yet again. So I think we've got his money. I think we've got his term. Who will he sign it with? That's the big question. Will he sign it with the Leafs? Will he sign it with another team? And my answer to that, and this is completely speculation, as is this entire video really, my belief is that I don't think, even taking the money out of it, if he gets paid more in the States, if he goes to, let's say, the New York Rangers, if he goes to the New York Rangers and he makes $14 million on a contract, just shooting for a crazy amount of money, I don't think Auston Matthews will truly make as much money anywhere else as he would playing for Toronto. He's playing in the center of the hockey universe. Whether or not we like to admit it or not, that's the case. That's the way the media pushes it. They are the center of the hockey universe. They're definitely the biggest fan base in the NHL, and because he's playing for such a big team, such a historic and well-recognized team in Canada, he gets a lot of opportunities for endorsements and sponsorships and collaborations with other kind of brands, whether or not they're in Canada or somewhere else. I think he has more opportunity for off-ice ways to make money and ways to get recognized playing in Toronto than he does anywhere else. So because of that, I think he will sign his next contract with the Maple Leafs because of those reasons, and also because if Toronto somehow was not able to re-sign Matthews to a contract extension, I'm telling you this right now because it's the truth, this would probably be the biggest missed opportunity, the biggest failure in Toronto Maple Leafs history. Like, we're going all the way from present day to 1917 when the team first originated. If they failed to re-sign Auston Matthews, who I think is not the greatest Leaf of all time yet, but he's definitely the best player that has ever played for the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of skill and talent, I think that. But with all of their playoff failures and not being able to re-sign Matthews, that would be the biggest missed opportunity in Toronto Maple Leafs history. It would be the biggest failure in Toronto Maple Leafs history. The Shanna plan would be the biggest failure in Toronto Maple Leafs history. I don't think they want that, so I think they're going to try and sign Auston Matthews as best they can, put forth the best effort that they can to re-sign him, and I think there's some mutual agreement that, yeah, Auston Matthews does want to play in Toronto, not just because it's an incredible place to play hockey in, but because I think that's where he'll make the most amount of money, which is a factor in all this for Matthews. But we're 2 years away. There's still lots of time. Lots of things can happen over the next 2 years in terms of, what happens with the Maple Leafs, what happens with Matthews as an individual, who's in charge of the Maple Leafs. There's so much possibility for overturn and change within the Leafs organization over the next 2 seasons that this video could be completely wrong in 2 years. And if I am, whatever. Let me know in the comments if, 2 years from now, if you're watching this 2 years from now and I'm completely wrong. I'd love to hear it in the comments, but there's so many moving parts for this situation that it's hard to predict, but I think as of September 27th, 2022, I think this is what would happen. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the Auston Matthews upcoming contract? How much money do you think he's gonna get? How much term do you think he's gonna sign for? And where do you think his next contract will be signed? Will it be in Toronto? Or will it be somewhere else? But I'd love to hear that. But for now, that is it for this video. I did hope you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. And I will see you in the next video. Peace out.
I think all that lethal